I want to give a big shout out to my buddy in Australia, Cass Comerford. Cass, I just met one of the Buddha's cousins, and he's absolutely right. The Indians try to claim him, but Gautama Siddhartha or Siddhartha Gautama, whether you're speaking Hindi or Pali or whatever, it's actually, and I'm sure he's a Pali speaker, and it's really cool. At first, I looked at the name and I go, that's the Spanish word for thirst, and when I met him, I said, yo no tengo sed, not thirsty. Didn't understand it, but he clearly speaks, understands English perfectly, probably Pali, Hindi, Urdu, and stuff, and his eyes kind of lit up when I said Gurkha. I just kind of threw it out there. He goes, Gurkha, and I said, now those Gurkha knives are the best for cutting off the head because they're shaped like a cane knife. I don't know why you'd want to have a blade that's shaped the other way when you're, I don't get that at all. It's correctly, it's got to be like a Gurkha or like a cane knife, or what Sling Blade calls a sling blade. Some people call it a Kaiser blade. It was really cool to meet, because like I was agreeing with him, is that but he may have earned his way into this country because he's probably my age. Cass, you ought to see the guy. He was very smooth skin. He had no wrinkles. I saw him up close. And he was insisting upon being kind of subservient to me when I was insisting on independence, because that's kind of the nature of Buddhism, isn't it? Cass, wouldn't you agree? It's to be, especially an old cripple like me. He insisted upon, he said he liked helping her and stuff, and she's probably my age, but especially, even the UV radiation, and he actually thinks today is hot, so that tells me he is from Nepal. And I'm sure he speaks the Pali or the stuff, which is very different, because I asked him first Hindustani and then Nepal, and then I said, I buried my mother in a Nepalese hand-carved urn because my sister cremated her in their fashion and stuff, and it was actually a used urn. I could tell. I could see that somebody already cast ashes to the wind and stuff. Actually, some of the Buddhists, they actually put the body out for the vultures to eat, because that's part of reincarnation. Their concept of recycling everything, it's actually quite accurate. I think the Tibetan Buddhists actually put the bodies out on hilltops. I'm not sure, you can correct me, so that the vultures can eat them. But, why not? They help keep areas clean from dead animals. That's why they're federally protected in this country. All raptors, all vultures, all. My neighbor actually shot one of my red-tailed hawks one time and didn't realize she had committed a federal crime. I don't care if the hawk's getting your chickens, then you need to put a top over your chicken enclosure. That's where she had it. They weren't out free ranging and stuff. They're free ranging and a hawk gets them, tough shit. Forgive my language. I want to keep this kind of clean and stuff, but you rarely run into a Nepalese, and he kind of had that look he had his head shaved and stuff. He had the look of, he may have been in the Royal Gurkhas, a lifetime ago when he was a young man. He kind of, his eyes lit up when I said Gurkha. Because while they're a very peaceful country, it's kind of like the Swiss, but if you come at them, they're going to, you notice Nepal has been able to stay fairly, because they got a country right on either side of them, and above them, they're all just fighting their, Nepal, much like Tibet, but Tibet didn't have really anybody that was, they didn't have an army when the Chinese invaded. And stuff, 7 years in Tibet is a fairly accurate recounting of a person who actually did spend 7 years in Tibet. The name is real, all that's real. They really they had like some old muskets or something like that, and like one cannon that they didn't even know how to load. So it's just cool to meet somebody who's, has lived in one of the most turbulent, and as I recall, they were able to, that's why they're still a separate country. They were able to send off the Arabic conquest, later called the Mohammedan conquest. He was so proud to be, from the home of but I was educating him. By other people's count, there's been 9 or 10. But the one that's everybody remembers did actually end up doing his long discourses in Deer Park. Where is that, in like Delhi? Or I'm talking about like old Delhi, not New Delhi, or in which today is one of the biggest gay hookup spots in India. But anyway, I just thought I'd give a shout out because I'm surrounded by people who come from countries that I hold less respect for, that have embraced Buddhism. The Hindus embraced it as one of their like 32 million gods, and then it kind of hit like the martial and the artistic part of Buddhism in Japan. Please, I've benefited from the wisdom of this group of people, especially in learning how to control one's breathing. It's called Zazen, preparation for Zen meditation. And therefore, actually, I can beat any lie detector test. You're wasting your time. I've already been in a murder case, and the polygrapher actually said that's the most perfectly modulated test I've ever conducted. And I said, yeah, I've studied Zazen. And it was, I was escorted there, even though the Texas Ranger told me, we know you wasn't there, we just got to eliminate you as a suspect, because the suspect has the same size feet as yours. And in the meantime, I didn't know that little Raymond Shupak had grown to be that big. And he was the murderer. And he used to be my neighbor a long time ago on the Prairiedale property, my Prairiedale property, that I had to sign off on 3 times. So anyway, yeah, I actually met what would be a blood relation of Gautama Siddhartha today. We're all cousins, but he's much closer as far as the degrees of separation. He would be a first degree from the Buddha. So I thought I'd share my moment of joy in meeting with a happy, hardworking old man who's got to be my age and stuff like that. And he is really in amazing shape for his age and stuff. He was still spry and stuff. Well, spend your whole life in the mountains and stuff, and he probably went into the British Empire because they were. He may have, if you serve in the Gurkhas, you've got an automatic visa, I'm sure, to get into the UK, and then probably went from there to here because it's. He's here driving Uber because he probably has the time. It's great to run in. Anyway. I just thought I'd kind of share with you. May be irrelevant to you, but we don't get many Nepalese around here. It's very rare. And they have a unique, and I'm pretty sure he was a Buddhist. He is a Buddhist. He is wearing a baseball cap, but that head was shaved, and he was in, at high altitude though, your radiation and your UV radiation and, other cosmic radiation and stuff, all that is much higher, but he looked in incredible shape for his age. I could tell he was a man of mature years and spoke many languages, more than a few, probably 4, 5, or 6, but not Spanish. Anyway, I'll see you later. I'm just trying to relate to you and let you know, because I bet you there are probably very few Nepalese in Australia. But he was right. Everybody thinks that the Buddha, that enlightened person or awakened person was from India. No, he was from Nepal. I'll see you guys later.